I would like to just share one other Christmas story. We saw it from the Old Testament. We saw it from Luke. We saw it from Matthew. But John has his own story of Christmas as well. And I'd like to read it for you now. It's from John chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. It's what's known as the incarnation of Christ. It's the idea that a piece of heaven has come down. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John, and he came as a witness, to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Amen. All right. Everybody probably here has heard the Christmas story in some shape or fashion. And yet you all traveled here for a Christmas Eve service. Why? You just think about that. Why every year? I'm sure it's busy. It's a busy time for a lot of people right now. I want you to think about that, but I want to take a little detour and then come back to that question again. You know that feeling where you've ever reached out for something and it was right at your fingertips? It was almost there. And you felt, I could just about get it. It's right in front of me, but it was just a hair too far out of reach. When I first got my leg done with the surgery, I was reaching for a glass. And I can remember, do I get up and put weight on this? No, my wife will yell at me. And it was just a hair too far out of reach. I think there's something about the Magi, or the wise men, and the shepherds. They both read the stars. Shepherds would do it, and that's how they would be able to navigate with the sheep, and they would literally track by the stars in the fields. They had to know seasons. They had to know weather patterns. Wise men, or magi, however you want to call them, were really somewhat like astrologers. They used to try to read the stars to look for signs and clues from the heavens. And I want you to picture for a minute shepherds and wise men, and you know those nights where there's just 100 million stars in the sky? And it looks like the moon is right there, and it looks like everything is right there in front of you, but it's just too far to reach. These wise men are trained to look at stars to try to see if heaven would somehow connect with us. And it's all right in front of them, but it's all too far out of reach. Until a light begins to shine that seems to break through from somewhere else. A light that looks different than any light that's been before, as if it breaks through from eternity. And when it looked like a light beamed down from heaven that was finally accessible, finally within reach, maybe a journey had to go to get there, but it was finally tangible, they traveled. So why did you travel here? Christmas is a big travel time. And why do people, where do they travel usually? What's the thing we travel to see the most on Christmas? Family. We travel to see family. If there's two things that we do during Christmas, aside from praise Jesus and give gifts, it's a big season to travel, and it's a big season to see family. And ironically, that's not too far away from the spiritual understanding of Christmas, because from the beginning, from the very first Christmas, from day one, Christmas was a time of travel for wise men and shepherds who believed that maybe, just maybe, what seemed so far out of reach for so long was finally within grasp. That maybe something from heaven itself has broken through and come down. And so why? Why do we travel? Do we do it out of obligation? For those of you who travel to see family, do you do it out of obligation? Don't answer that if your family's sitting right next to you. Okay? Amen. Right? You travel to see family, and sometimes you feel guilty. I got to go see, my relatives or my mom and dad. Or mom and dad, I don't feel guilty. I don't come visit you on Christmas, right, because of that. But you think it's an obligation or a joy. I don't know. If anybody's ever seen the movie Christmas Vacation, right, with Chevy Chase, all he wants to do is reunite the family around Christmas time because there's something that draws us to want to be around family at Christmas. That's all he wants to do. And as they start rolling in and the personalities start going and the conflicts, there's this like great scene where his wife just looks and says, honey, it's Christmas time and we're all miserable. Just deal with it, right? So you don't know, is there joy? Is there obligation? But it doesn't matter because we're together on Christmas. There's a hope of reunion, like we've been wired. Something about heaven breaking through almost gives us a hope that maybe, just maybe, we might be reunited. And not just with biological family. Maybe even to God himself. We're wired to long to be together. My son Eli, I'll embarrass him a little bit, but I said, buddy, what do you want right now in your life more than anything? You move to a new school, there's a transition process. Do you want to, grow deeper with new friends? Do you want to see old friends? Do you want to do this? What are you hoping for in life? What do you want out of sports? What do you want out of academics? What do you want out of all these things? And he looked at me and he said, what I want most of all in my life right now is for my two aunts and their families to come with Mimi and Pop-Up and all of us so that we could just all be together. You can go, right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, there you go, E. And I thought, that's profound. And what is it? What is it that draws us on Christmas to want to be together? And I think the reunion of family has everything to do with Christmas, but if you'll permit me, I'm not talking about your biological family. You see, we read a verse just now from John, and I believe it's very intentional that as John tells his Christmas story about the light breaking through, that finally a star worth following has shone. Finally a light that seems to beam from eternity itself. And all of a sudden, people want to be together. Why do you think that as John talks about the Christmas light breaking through, he says to everyone who believed in it, they were given the right to be the children of God. From the very beginning, the light worth following, the journey worth traveling was to bring us together as family. God's family. The Son of God came so that you might know yourself as a son and a daughter and each other as brothers and sisters. It is no coincidence that family and reunions happen right from the very first Christmas. Travel and a reunion of the children of God happen from the very first Christmas. And we carry that on today. Christmas Day beckons people to travel, to have a hope of being reunited with God and with each other. Why would shepherds travel out of their way to see, as it says, to see this thing that has happened, a Savior for all the people? Was it out of fear or obligation? If an angel showed up to me and said, hey, you might want to get down there, I probably would go. But I don't think it was out of fear. I don't think it was out of obligation. That's not it. We don't come here tonight out of obligation. Some of you have traveled some distance to get here tonight. Is it because it's Christmas Eve and you got to check off your Christmas Eve to-do list? It's not what it is it? It's not what brings you from Belchertown. There's something else that draws us. Why would the Magi, the wise men, travel so far to see the source of the star? Was it to research their astrological interests? I don't think so. You aren't here to see the candles. Listen, I loved as a kid watching the candlelight ceremony. Isn't it great when all the lights go dim and we light all the candles and everybody's lit by candlelight, singing Silent Night? It's beautiful, isn't it not? It's not why you're here. There's something more that draws us. And I believe the shepherds and the wise men, they started their Manger Mile, their Manger Marathon, because they believed that maybe finally what was out of reach is now within grasp. Maybe heaven that we've looked at under the stars for so long, maybe it's broken through and finally we can get a piece of paradise. And maybe we can even have it together as a family reunion. They traveled to see a star beam from the other side of eternity, a chance to touch and see heaven itself and to see it together. Isn't that why we're here? Don't you believe that when you come here, there's something more than lighting a candle, something more than singing Hark the Herald Angels Sing and O Come All Ye Faithful? I'm sure you've heard it on the radio a bit. I'm sure you've sang them already in your car. I'm sure you can go home and light a candle. You may be able to sit with your close family and light a candle. Why are you here? Why did you start the Manger Mile? Because we believe that to those who have believed in his name and been given the right to become children of God, that a light has broken through eternity and has shined on a place that we call home. And it isn't because of the sheetrock or the address on this sign. We believe, we still believe, don't we, that maybe when we come together as family, maybe heaven is tangible in this moment. That if heaven broke through and came down, we might be able to experience something here as family. To believe that heaven and earth have collided in divine purpose and intent. Now, I want to go back to where I started. It's a brief sermon on Christmas Eve, even for a Baptist preacher. I want you to think about those magi and shepherds again. And I want you to think about them constantly looking to the heavens for signs. Right there, but out of reach. How many of you have ever seen the painting The Finger of God by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel? How many of you have seen a picture of it? And it's like there's the finger of man, right? And the finger of God. And there's just a reach and a reach, but just a hair too far. You know what I think Jesus does? You know what I think the birth of Christ is? It's the time that the light from eternity breaks through, and he grabs the hand of man, and he grabs the hand of God, and he takes, I don't need this, he takes those two fingers that are just a hair out of reach and brings the hand of God to unite with us again. That's who Jesus Christ is. The God-man. A hand in Adam's and ours. A hand in the Father's. And maybe maybe we, like the Magi and the shepherds who were willing to take a few miles just for the chance to see heaven break through. We don't do this service to recycle the same thing over and over again. I don't even do this service to light the candles. I do this service because there's a family reunion for the children of God who believe that heaven broke through. And maybe, just maybe, we can experience it together. That's why we're here. That's why you travel from Agawam, Belchertown, Connecticut. Go ahead, anyone else? Go ahead, you can say it. West Chicopee, Springfield. We did it to walk the Manger Mile together. We did it for the same reason they did it over 2,000 years ago on day one. Maybe what